Like everyone, social distancing has changed my life. A year ago, I had the world by the balls. Amazing, smart, funny, and beautiful wife. A family that cares about me. Great paying job with ongoing career potential. Friends I would trust with my life. So how do you start to doubt yourself and everything that happens in your life? You discover that what you thought was strong is not nearly as strong as you expected. As fear of COVID began to spread, each state decided to take its own measures to deal with the crisis. Since the federal government was not interested in a nationwide lockdown, the states were left to their own devices. Each state acted in accordance with its own political line. Those who leaned toward liberalism began to close themselves off, while those who leaned toward conservatism kept things open. We got a kick out of the governor shutting everything down, while the state legislature and judges tried to force it to reopen. But until that happens, everything is closed and gatherings of more than 20 people are prohibited. Unless you decide to protest, protest actions remain acceptable. If you can understand any of this logic, you are smarter than me. Since we were not deemed indispensable by our intrepid governor and health advisor, we set up our new work offices in our previously established home office, which fortunately required almost no real physical changes, just the scheduling aspects of how we could work seamlessly with the demands of various online meetings and tasks for children. 2 out of 3 children had active teachers who gave tasks, but one of them had a lazy teacher who gave them almost no assignments and mostly took the rest of the semester off. Strict adherence to our schedule became necessary as we dealt with the responsibilities of teaching, parenting, and work to the best of our ability. Most of the time, one of us would teach parent while the other did his job, and then we would switch. Friday evenings became golden working hours when the kids finished their projects for the week. Once they completed their training, they connected to their digital device of choice, allowing us both to work simultaneously with minimal distraction. So Sarah and I had a rare moment in the office. She is a middle manager and is responsible for about 10 people with whom she interacts quite regularly. They held weekly meetings on Fridays to make sure everyone knew what was going on and were prepared for the following week. This was one of the typical meetings. Those who were successful were congratulated, and those who were below the acceptable level were either gently encouraged if it was a random event or told to stay after the meeting for one-on-one consultation, which meant they were in serious trouble. Andrea was one of Sarah's less successful performers, which is understandable considering Andrea was hired for her looks rather than her mental acuity. Back in the days when you could meet people in person, her gorgeous looks made complete business sense. Guys are distracted by her appearance and may decide to make an order to see her again. It's stupid, but it works. This skill set becomes irrelevant when there are no face-to-face meetings and you need to really know what you're talking about in order to make a sale. Sexuality is much harder to sell on video than in person. Andrea didn't have the best skill set, which is why she was always on the fail list, and today was no exception. I smiled as I listened to Sarah talk about her disappointment with Andrea's work. Even though Sarah tried to be positive, everyone in the Zoom meeting knew Andrea was in trouble when Sarah told her to wait until after the meeting ended. "Of course, Sarah, I'll wait," Andrea answered disappointedly. This should have been the end of it, but this sometimes happens to most of us at one point or another after we finish speaking on a video conference. We forget to turn off the sound. I don't know who she was talking to, maybe to herself, but Andrea just gave vent to her feelings, not realizing that the sound was on. The fucking smug bitch is going to yell at me for messing up a little. I wonder how confident she would be if I told her husband that she had sex with Corey at the last conference. My head immediately looked up from the computer and looked at my previously loving wife as her eyes widened and her mouth fell open. Her team members could be heard shouting, "Oh my God, shut up!" And even, "Damn it, this is impossible!" I got up from the table and went to Zoom. "Thank you, Andrea. If possible, I would like to talk to you more about my wife's relationship with Corey." I gave her my cell number and email address, while Sarah just continued to sit there in complete shock at what had happened. You also probably don't need to wait after the call. I think Sarah has other problems right now, so maybe she'll talk to you later. John, it's me. Before you go down the shit trail, let's take everything to the bedroom so we can talk about it while you pack. I saw her look at her computer, confused, and then turn and follow me as I left the office. Entering the bedroom, I reached under the bed and pulled out her suitcase. Gather everything you need to live in your parents' house for the foreseeable future. John, I'm so sorry. It was a one-off event. I celebrated and drank too much after receiving the award for saving the Collins deal. I swear it only happened once, and I've felt so guilty ever since. Of course you feel it. That's why you told me right away as soon as you got home. Pack up your junk and go to your parents. I'll even call them to let them know you're coming. Taking out the phone, I called my father-in-law, and he picked up after the second ring. Isn't it great that Brady acted like crap last weekend? Best day in years. It was fun to watch, but unfortunately, I have a serious problem, and I need your help. It seems your daughter has a boyfriend that I was just informed about. While I figure out what's going on, could she stay with you and Jackie for a while? It's not funny, John. No, Tom, I'd be glad to joke. Talk to her yourself. I handed the phone to Sarah, who looked at it like it was a hand grenade. She slowly brought it to her ear. Sorry, Dad. While Jackie was a retired English teacher, Tom clearly had a knowledge of swear words that would make a Navy Chief Petty Officer jealous. While he chewed on Sarah, I continued to pack her clothes, then grabbed a small suitcase and moved on to her hygiene products. A few minutes later, she handed me the phone, in tears. So, is it okay if she stays for a while? Sure. Maybe I can knock some sense into this idiot. After a pause, he continued, Why are you so calm now? Are you all right? I'm just in shock right now. What really worries me is that I will be angry and possibly violent with her later. I think it's best for everyone if she stays away for a few days until I figure out what happened. She will arrive soon. Having finished the conversation, I turned to Sarah. I'll put this in your car and tell the kids you'll be leaving for a couple of days. Let me make my position very clear at this point. You lied, you left. If this is a protracted matter, then you are gone for good. It's only because of the kids that I'm not filing for divorce today, so you have a little time before I call Dave for a divorce lawyer recommendation. She came outside shortly after I finished putting the bags in the trunk of her car. The pain and guilt on her face clearly showed how remorseful she was. But alas, we were no longer the happy couple we were 30 minutes ago. Crap. I felt like my life was a complete sham, and it happened faster than I could order a pizza. I realized that I was in shock, and that from the moment Andrea opened her mouth, I had been on autopilot. I quickly texted my buddies Bill and Ted, letting them know I couldn't make it that evening. Answer came fast. She holds you under heel. I grabbed the beer and blurted out, I wish I could. This was so. A second later, I realized what I had written and had a good idea of what would happen next. I called my neighbors and asked if the children could spend the night with them. I took the children away and managed to return without getting into a serious conversation with the neighbors. Shortly after I returned home, Bill showed up at my door. As I opened the door to let him in, Ted pulled up in his pickup truck. We watched with interest and awe as Ted reached into the back of his truck and pulled out a shovel, trash bags, and limes. Billy and I were just looking at each other, both clearly embarrassed, when Ted walked up to us. We're going to kill this bitch, right? Said Ted. Bill burst out laughing, and I couldn't help it either. Ted just looked completely ridiculous. Bill asked him, What are you going to do with the limes? Make her a margarita and poison her with alcohol. No, dumbass. I saw a documentary on YouTube about a Mexican cartel that used limes to dispose of corpses. You need lie, idiot. Maybe there's something better to distract from the terrible state of health than listening to two people having a stupid argument. But since Ted has openly stated his intention to kill Sarah, it would be best to get these two inside before the cops arrive, and I have to explain Ted's choices. He's not calling you a liar, buddy. He's trying to tell you it's lie, not lime. Lie decomposes the body, as you said. Indeed? I'm afraid so. Let's go into the house and I'll tell you what happened. While Ted made a lime margarita in the blender, I recounted the story of how I found out and what I did. Ted stopped the blender for a second to speak. So this other chick just opened her mouth and you heard it all. Man, this really sucks. Does the chatty chick have big tits or something? Maybe you can talk to her and then take the opportunity to get revenge? I saw her last year at the Christmas party and she's pretty hot. But I don't want to stoop to Sarah's level just yet. Bill took the margarita and made an appreciative noise after taking a sip. You should talk to the chick with the big tits and see what she knows about Sarah cheating. You need to know what you're up against before you go down the warpath, and you're more likely to hear it from Sarah's enemies than from her friends. If this was a one-time thing, then this is a difficult choice, but if this is an ongoing affair, then everything is clear. Drive away. Taking a sip of my margarita, I shook my head, appreciating how well the limes had transformed from potential criminal to delicious drink. Okay, then I'll start by figuring it out. Right. And if this happens several times, you can also have fun with someone in revenge. I just laughed. Yes, a good plan. Waking up the next morning with a headache, I took a few aspirin and started searching for information. Finding Andrea's phone number in Sarah's home office was easy, so I called her and asked her to meet me to talk. After apologizing, she agreed to meet me for a cup of coffee. The meeting with Andrea was informative and gave me what I was hoping to hear. Sarah was excited and didn't pay attention to what she was drinking and drank too much. Andrea saw Sarah crying when she left Corey's room the next morning. Andrea really stood up for Sarah, which surprised me a little. She told me how much Sarah loved me. Andrea was embarrassed and regretted that she accidentally told me during a Zoom meeting. I appreciate you telling me. I prefer the ugly truth to the beautiful lies. I paid for lunch and went home. Having picked up the children and warmly thanked the neighbors, we went home. While entertaining the children, I tried to think about what I wanted. I was upset and angry about what she did. But before that, she was an amazing wife and mother. As if to confirm her good qualities, Sarah called during lunch. I know you hate me, but I just wanted to call and make sure you and the kids are okay. So, not only am I a terrible husband, but also an incompetent father? No, that's not what I meant at all. Peggy sent me a text telling me to have fun last night while she watched the kids. I know I hurt you a lot, and I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Well, did you have fun last night? Enjoying your free time with your lover? Sometimes I can't control myself, and the petty reprimands in that moment seem to make me feel a little better. And yes, I'm being childish, but she started it. I spent the whole evening in tears telling my parents what a complete idiot I was and how I would end up as a strange divorced lady with 100 cats. I couldn't help but smile, knowing how much she despised cats. I will never be able to tell you how sorry I am for what I did to us. Please give me a chance to show you that I'm more than just a bitch who did something really stupid. I thought for a second. I had a sketch in my head of what I wanted to do, at least with her. Come home tomorrow afternoon. We'll talk and find out where we are. But don't forget that there were at least 2 stupid things when you didn't confess to me upon your return. We'll talk and I'll decide what I'm going to do. Indeed. Yes. But I need you to write down everything you did with him and anyone else you were with. I need to know the scale of the problem I'm dealing with. So, if you have any other skeletons that you are hiding, you better write about it in a letter. Fine. Should I email it or bring it with me? Both. Bring it with you. The children were oblivious to what was happening and accepted without hesitation that Sarah was at her parents' house. Pizza and drinking in front of the TV helped the kids get through the evening. The next morning after breakfast, the children and I went for a walk. As we walked, I asked them various questions about school and sports. Towards the end of the walk, I asked each of them what they loved about their mother. I like that she reads me stories before bed. I like your stories, Dad, but Mom is much better at it, said Susie. I couldn't help but laugh. Thank you, I think second place is not so bad. I turned to Janie. When she helps me with my math homework so that I answer correctly. Are you saying that I'm bad at helping with math? No, Dad. She just teaches it a little differently, so it's easier for me to understand than when you do it. Because Mom and I kind of think the same way. That's fair, but what about you, Will? I like the way she takes care of us. Not just the cleaning you both do, but the little things she does. The way she makes sure we know she loves us even when we do something wrong. Like when someone decided to use her makeup as war paint. Yes, she was upset, but I still knew that she loved me. Lost in my own thoughts for a moment, I simply replied, "Yes, that's true." When we returned home, Sarah was already there. The children hugged her and disappeared. Sarah had always been the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, but now she looked terrible. I walked over, hugged her, and hugged her tightly. Yes, I was angry with her. Yes, it's all her own fault. The point was not to forgive her mistake, but to allow her to feel a little comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. I let her go and stepped back. Let's go out to talk. As we sat down on the patio chairs, she placed the letter in front of me. I opened the envelope and began to read the letter. She went into more detail than I would have liked to know when she wrote about all the guys she had been with before we met. But most importantly, she told me what happened to Corey in great detail. She said how ashamed she was of her stupidity. He didn't rape her, he just took advantage of the situation when they were both drunk. She confessed her failure. She suggested taking a lie detector test, but I told her not to do it as it would be a waste of time. If she lied, we're screwed. She knew it, as did I. We talked until lunch, and then again. We agreed that marriage counseling might be a good idea. We were going to think of counseling as marriage tuning. We had an accident that destroyed our marriage, but we had to make sure nothing like that happened again. Preventative maintenance can sometimes save you from accidents. Luckily, with social distance, Sarah won't have to meet her colleagues face to face, so she'll be less embarrassed than if she had to go to work. On Monday, she called her boss and told him what happened between her and Corey and how it all came out in the Zoom meeting. Corey wasn't her boss, so there was nothing against the company's internal relations policy. We both went about our business, juggling between work and raising our kids, until the day was over and we could finally pass out from exhaustion. The next morning, I woke up with my shorts slightly pulled down and the sensation of Sarah giving me pleasure. Letting go of my hands, I cupped her face as we made love. It wasn't angry, hateful sex. It was just two people appreciating what they had. We've done this hundreds of times before, but because of the stress we were under, it was different. We knew we were in this together and realized how close we were to the edge and how far we still had to go. A week later, Corey was out for a run in the woods when one of the runners accidentally bumped into him. Corey fell down a hill into a thorny bush, and his skin was scratched all over. When he returned to the top, several people passing by stopped to help. They didn't have a first aid kit, but they did have some limes from lunch, and they were very convincing him that it was, in fact, a natural disinfectant. Corey screamed in pain as the acid began to clot his blood, causing a small chemical burn. However, it helped stop the bleeding. Corey lay there, screaming and crying in pain when the guys left and didn't hear them talking to each other. Good thing lemon lime? Yes. Did you know that alkaline shit can clean drains too? I found it at Home Depot. Good, because when John is done with the asshole, we might need this along with your shovel.
Thanks for hanging out and listening. If you liked the story, hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Make sure to check out our other wild tales right here on the end screen. Catch you in the next story.